Hi guys, as you guys saw in the title, I will be taking you guys along on my first attempt at a full wig install. So if you guys are interested in seeing that, then just keep watching. So to start off, I am going to be bleaching the knots, and this is just what the wig looks like off rip before I bleach the knots. So I'm taking the Wella powder lightener and I'm taking 30 volume developer. Doesn't really matter which brand, but I'm using the L'Oreal one. And basically, I am just adding developer to the bleach until it is kind of like a frosting consistency. I learned this from Brittany Rivers here on YouTube. So the technique that I'm using here today is a combination of the technique I learned from Brittany as well as a technique I learned from Miss Erica J. So Brittany said frosting like consistency is what's going to prevent it from running through the hair and causing the hair to be over bleached. The purpose of doing this is just to lighten the knots so that they look more natural and more close to the natural color of your scalp. Now, I will say, I feel like my consistency was a bit too thick because I had to leave this on for a long period of time for the knots to lift to my preferred level, and I still feel like they didn't lift as much as I would have preferred. I feel like they could have definitely gone longer. So I would recommend doing your consistency a little bit thinner than mine, just so it's able to slightly go through the lace so it'll completely cover the knot. I did leave it on for like 2 hours, which is outrageous. And I kept checking it like every 15 minutes to make sure they weren't getting over bleached. And it could be a case of the knots on this particular wig just being hard to bleach. I don't know. But next time I do plan to, do my consistency a little bit thinner. Like I said, this is my first time doing this, so I'm learning along with you guys. So as you guys can see, I'm just spreading the bleach evenly along the lace, and I'm doing a pretty thin layer across the lace. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of like pushing it in a bit as I spread it to make sure it's covering those knots, or at least that's what I was trying to do. Obviously, I didn't do too well. Also, I know you're not supposed to use silverware with bleach, so don't be like me, guys. Use like a wooden spoon or plasticware or actual coloring tools. The silverware could be the reason why my knots didn't bleach how they should have as well, so just keep that in mind. So after those 2 hours, I wasn't going to let it sit anymore, regardless of what it looked like. So as you guys just saw, I just rinsed the bleach out, and now I'm applying some purple shampoo. And I'm applying it evenly to the lace everywhere that I bleached, just to tone away that brassiness, because we don't want the knots to be orange and have orange roots on our wig. So once I applied the purple shampoo evenly, I just let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. And this is a technique that I learned from Brittany Rivers as well. So shout out to her. And anybody that I mentioned in this video, I will link their channels down in my description box so you guys can check them out as well. So after I rinsed out the purple shampoo, I just went in with my silicone mix shampoo and a deep conditioner. And I love to use this on all of my weaves. I like to shampoo with a clarifying shampoo first though, because just like, your natural hair, silicone can cause buildup on the hair over time. So if you're just using that shampoo and conditioner exclusively, you might find that over time the hair starts feeling coated and like there's buildup on it. So just make sure you're clarifying in between as well. So now we're moving into the fun part, which is the plucking. So I let the hair air dry. So I'm working on a dry canvas because I am a beginner, and I heard that plucking while wet can result in over plucking, and I didn't want to run into that issue. So I do have a paper towel underneath the wig as well, and I have it secured on my mannequin head with some T-pins. I'll have everything that I can remember to include linked in the description box. But as you saw, I just used my hot comb to hot comb the hair straight back, so all the hair is going in one direction. And now I'm just parting the middle and hot combing that just a bit so I can see, where the middle part is, and it's just going to help with plucking to have like the hair split in half so I can work it on one half at a time. And 9 times out of 10, I do middle parts with weave. I like the middle parts on in weave. It's easier to me too, honestly. So that's what I went ahead and did. And this technique that I'm about to do, and well, I guess I've already started it technically. As you just saw, I sectioned off the front part of the hair, just so that I'm saving that area for last because you don't want to pluck too much in the front. That's the area where you want to be the most precise at because that's what people are going to see if you have your hair pulled back or just in general. So I'm gonna save that section for last. But the technique that I'm using, I learned from Caroline A, I believe, here on YouTube, and she did a video, a detailed plucking video, where I think she said she learned the technique that she used from Arrogant Tay, I believe, one of his classes. So I know you guys can barely see what I'm doing. I don't know why I thought this setup would work. So if I do another video like this, I'm gonna have to work on it, the setup and whatnot. But what I'm doing here is plucking a line and skipping a line, as Caroline is said to do in her video. So basically what I mean by that is I am starting in one area, and I did start near the part, but you don't want to get too close to the part because you don't want to overpluck the area where your part is and have it, basically you don't want to cause balding. So you don't want bald spots near your part or just in general throughout. So this technique I find helps to prevent creating, bald spots throughout the wig. So plucking a line and skipping a line. So I'm plucking at the front and then I'm just not dragging. This is hard to describe. I'm plucking at the front and then I go back a bit with my tweezers. You don't want to just pluck all the hair in that line to where you're creating a line. You just pluck and then you kind of go back a little bit, pluck some more, and then go back a little bit, pluck some more. As far back as, you think is necessary for the wig. For this particular wig, the frontal was super dense. So even after I did the initial pluck, after I put it on my head, it still looked way too full to me. And I went back in and plucked some more. Didn't show you guys that, but I did the same technique that I'm showing you here. So maybe you can see a little better now. So I'm starting near the front and I'm plucking the front part and then going back and plucking a few times. And then I'm going to go back through and just pluck throughout in any areas that I feel still look too dense. You don't have to stick to that those same areas that you already plucked. Actually, you shouldn't because that's how you end up causing bald spots. But just anywhere that looks too full. The purpose in plucking is to make the hairline and just the frontal area in general look more natural because most of our hairlines aren't super full or like straight across. So this is gonna help to give you a natural looking hairline. So you can see a little bit better what I'm doing here. So I'm plucking and going back a little bit and plucking back behind that hairline, and I've combined the front portions now. So what I'm doing is the same technique in the front, plucking the line, skipping the line, but in the front you're gonna really be creating a hairline to look how you want it to look. I was still a little bit uncomfortable on this side. I got better on the other side. I didn't show that to you guys, but I started to feel a little more comfortable and kind of went plucking crazy on the other side at first. But it worked out in the end because I did need to go back in, especially on this side, and pluck more. So I'll say don't be scared because I feel like it's more difficult to create bald spots than it is to, get the desired look that you're going for. So as long as you're not plucking too much in just one particular spot, you shouldn't create bald spots. I hope I'm explaining this good. If not, just go watch Caroline's video because I think she did a great job at explaining, the technique. Because I don't feel like I'm doing a good job. And I realized I didn't mention the purpose for the paper towel, but it's just so that you can really see what you're doing. So when you remove the hair, you can see the paper towel underneath. It's just like a white canvas. And by skip a line, I mean once you plucked that first line, don't pluck the second line too close to that line because that could potentially cause balding as well. And essentially, by plucking the hair, we are removing hair. So technically, we are creating bald spots, but they're not big bald spots. They're just, to make it look natural, seamless. Not bald spots. We're creating gapping. And I forgot to mention, make sure you are plucking the knots, not the hair. Okay, get you a good pair of tweezers. I'm using slanted tip tweezers, and that's what Caroline recommends using as well. And they do a great job of gripping those knots and yanking those out. You want to pull the knots out because you're trying to create a natural looking scalp, and the knots are part of the reason why they don't look as natural. So you don't want to just yank the hair out and potentially leave the knots behind, because that's defeating the whole purpose. I'd also recommend not grabbing too many knots at once in your tweezers as well, because I think that could probably cause bald spots as well. So here is what it looks like after I've finished plucking both sides, or I thought I was finished, but I plucked it enough on the mannequin head, and I had decided I was going to put it on my head and see how it looked and see if I need to do anything else. So that is what I did, and like I said earlier, I did go back in and pluck a little bit more using the same technique that I've explained to you guys. So here I am getting ready to install the wig, and I'm just going to cut the lace in two places so that I can work in sections when applying it. So the technique that I'm using to apply the wig is a combination of techniques that I've watched in a bunch of different videos. Y'all, I've been watching so many wig videos because I've been trying to, or I plan to protect the style this year. So my first one has been wigs. Okay, my first type of protective style has been wigs, and I've been loving it. So now I'm just freeing my ears. I learned this from Miss Precious Marie. She has loads of wig videos on her channel, and they're great. So you want to make sure you're freeing your ears so that the wig actually sits properly on your head, and it helps prevent lifting on the sides as well. So I just showed you guys the bond spray that I'm using, and that's by Even, and it's the black can. I can't remember what hold it is, like Supreme Hold or something like that. But that's all I've been using on my hair. To apply my wigs, because I don't want to use glue. I'm using wigs for protective styling, so I would like to keep my edges. And I did have a wig installed with glue, and I do feel like they had too much tension on my edges, and I do feel like I kind of lost some of my edges with that. So I'm like, no glue for me. Bond spray it is. So here I'm just cooling it with my blow dryer. I'm using cool air. I meant drying, not cooling it. So I'm drying it down a bit, not to where it's all the way dry, but to where it's mostly dry. And if I was gonna stop there, I would just stop until I would just dry until it's tacky and then put it down. So sometimes I do between 1 to 3 layers depending on how long I intend to wear the wig or how much hold I think I'm gonna need. So I'm doing 2 layers this time, and as you can see, I'm starting right up top there. And on the second layer, I'm just doing the same process as with the first. But like I said, if I'm gonna be putting it down, I stop when it's tacky. And as you just saw, I laid the lace down on top, and now I'm just gonna press it down where I applied the bonding spray. Now the bonding spray is not gonna last as long as the glue. So if you plan to keep your wig on long term, that this is not it. Okay, at most I'll get 2 days for me, even when I do 3 layers, because it's gonna start lifting somewhere. And I feel like I'm gonna start getting closure wigs instead of frontal wigs, because it's just a lot of work applying them. I've gotten a lot better, so I'm a lot quicker now, because this is not my first time applying a wig. It's my first time doing everything else, the bleaching, plucking, all that. But with the wig that I had glued down, I've been applying it with the bond spray, so I've been learning how to do this more efficiently. Now this lace cutting part here, y'all, I cut myself a few times doing this. As you can see, I'm using an eyebrow razor to do so. When I saw Caroline apply her wig, she cut the lace first and then laid the wig down. So I did do that with the other side off camera. And I preferred it that way because I wasn't cutting myself. And also I feel like it just laid better that way. Because when you do it this way that I'm showing you guys, with the bonding spray down first and then laying the lace down, sometimes some of the lace that doesn't have any hair on it gets stuck as well, and You want to avoid that as well because you want to cut as close to the hairline as possible when you're cutting that lace for it to look the most natural. So I would recommend cutting the lace first. Um, after you've applied it to your head, just go ahead and cut that lace before you lay the wig part down. So instead of doing this step right here, you would have cut the lace and then pulled the wig down into place. And I just found that that's, like I said, better for me because those cuts did not feel good. So as you guys can see, I do go back in with my blow dryer on cool air after I've laid the lace down just to make sure that the bonding spray is dry and the lace is nice and secure. And I didn't show you guys, but I do have on a wig cap underneath the wig. I did not do the bald cap method because I do feel like that affected my edges as well. So that's not something that I am or intend to do, but it does help to give you a more natural looking scalp underneath. And I did also go in and put a little bit of my foundation directly on the wig lace before applying it. In the future, I think I'm going to only put the foundation behind the hairline because the lace on my forehead I feel like was too light because my forehead is a bit darker than the rest of my face. So here I'm just going in and I'm touching up any areas that still have a little lifting. I typically always have areas that still have a little lifting after I do the bonding spray if I apply it underneath the lace instead of applying it directly on top of it, but that's my preference because I find it to be less messy. And as you guys saw when I was applying the bonding spray, I was using my finger. I like to spray it onto something and then apply it directly to my skin with my finger because again I find it to be less messy. You don't want to use too much of this, and this is something I learned from Miss Precious Marie. You don't want to use too much of the bonding spray because it will leave white residue if you do. And I find it's easier for me to control how much I use if I apply it with my fingers. So that's just my preference, but do as you please. On my sideburn area though, I do go in and spray because I do find that's the area of the wig that typically likes to lift first. So it typically needs a bit more reinforcement than other areas of my head. So while I have a little time, I'm going to take this time to tell you guys how we ended up here. So I ordered this wig to get it installed professionally, not do it myself. But when it arrived, it wasn't what I expected it to look like. It was supposed to be 250% density, and I think anybody with eyes can see that it's not. I'd say 130 to 150 tops. But it was super affordable, so I was kind of skeptical that it would be 250% density anyways. I was expecting at least 180 though, I ain't gonna hold you. But since it was super affordable, I decided to keep it and just use it as a wig to practice on so I could learn how to do this whole process on my own. So it's serving its purpose right now. But I will say, do not blindly believe AliExpress reviews that are overly positive because I do think they put fake reviews on there. So as you guys just saw, I applied my melt band, and make sure you apply that once the hairline is completely dry. Otherwise, you're going to have a whole bunch of white residue and a mess. You're probably still going to have some anyway, so that's why I'm taking my alcohol here and a sock. I learned this from a girl on YouTube as well. I can't remember her channel name. I'll try to find it and link her below as well because this was clutch because a washcloth is going to leave like lint balls and cotton pads leave cotton behind. So socks is like the perfect like smooth they have like the perfect smooth canvas to wipe away that residue without leaving anything behind. And 91% alcohol will be your best friend in that instance because it's going to get that right off. So as you can see, I just took my regular hairspray and I'm touching up any areas that were still lifting, and I'm going to go through and do that in any areas that I see that are lifting, probably off camera because I did have some other areas I had to touch up, and I'm sure y'all can see where it needs to be touched up at. So any places like that, I went in with my regular hairspray because it doesn't leave that white residue behind that the bonding spray does. It doesn't have as much hold, but it gets the job done when you already have the bonding spray down. So now I'm taking my foundation powder and my bronzing powder mixed together, and I'm applying it to the hairline just to make it closer to my skin tone. Like I told you guys, the foundation on my forehead was a little light, so that's why I mixed my bronzing powder with my foundation so that it can be a little deeper. And don't worry about how it looks now. Like I said, any places that are lifting, I am going to go in and fix it. But right now, I am cutting baby hairs. Then I'm taking my little baby flat iron here and I'm going to bump them because I just find that it makes it easier for me to lay them down when I bump them a little bit. And I am cutting my sideburn hairs as well. I just like how that looks, the sideburn and the little baby hair. I don't like too much, just a little something, something that makes it look natural. And I also find that the baby hairs can help to shape your hairline to the shape that you want it to be as well. So just based on how you part them out, that'll help the hairline be shaped how you'd like for them to be. So I'm taking mousse now and just gonna lay that down. And I just took the dew mousse and laid that. But you can use whatever mousse you want to, really. And I forgot to mention that while the wig was still on the mannequin head, I did use some hair wax about a part and I hot combed it down to make it flat because that's how I prefer for it to look. And I applied some hair wax to the edges and hot combed them back as well because I like the slick look. And I added some wine curls, which I learned from Brittany Rivers. So once I've laid my baby hairs to my liking, I just take my blow dryer on cool heat again and just set them in place. Sometimes I'll go in and spray a little hairspray down on them as well so that they just, stay a little bit better. So once I was done with this side, I did the same process to the other side, and here are the final results. And if I do say so myself, I think I did a pretty good job plucking this wig for it to be my first time. And I cannot take all the props. So thankful for the girlies who, work so hard to help us girls out here who don't know what we're doing learn how to do this and actually be successful at it. So thank y'all. Y'all deserve the props. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel before you leave. And I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.